So I told you to think in your head about what sort of performance and range you expect to get out of Wi-Fi. Your mind would probably think about what kind of performance you get on 5 gigahertz. Maybe you can get a gigabit if you're lucky. What sort of range you can get on 2.4 gigahertz. Maybe you can go all the way across the house. Probably not. But today I'm taking a look at one of the lesser known versions of Wi-Fi, 802.11ah, also called HaLow. So HaLow runs on the 900 megahertz band, so this is running in a much lower frequency spectrum. This means that we can propagate much more easily through stuff like trees, foliage, houses, but we also have to sacrifice channel width or bandwidth. So 802.11ah HaLow is essentially taking 802.11ac or Wi-Fi 5 and shrinking it down by like 20 times. So our 20, 40, 80, 160 megahertz channels turn into 1, 2, 4, and 8. That gives us a theoretical throughput in a lab of 32 megabits per second. Reality, you get maybe half that. But theoretical ranges of well over a kilometer. Now that seems absolutely wild to me for full-on Wi-Fi. And this is full Wi-Fi. We get full 1500 byte frames, IPv4, IPv6, all the stuff we expect to carry over Wi-Fi, just slower and way longer distance. So today I'm taking a look at 2 Wi-Fi HaLow dongles from Heltec. There's many other dongles on the market that can do this, but these are the 2 that I have, so these ones we're going to take a look at. Now if that sounds good to you, then come along on this adventure. Also real quick, I got a merch store now, so if you want to buy this cool shirt that says Home Lab, your own personal data center, or the other shirts, some of which you'll see me wearing in this video, check out my merch store, link down in the description below. Also, these 2 guys were sent to me by Heltec for this video. They come in a kit. They are, I don't want to say about 120 bucks for the kit, something like that, in that range. There's many other similar products, which we'll talk about at the end of the video. So these were sent to me for free for the review. Unfortunately, I can't keep them because I'm moving to Finland in 2 weeks, and these guys are 900 megahertz US frequency versions that also exist HaLow in the 868 megahertz band if you're in the EU. But yeah, so I guess I'll decide when I'm going to do these at the end of the video. So here's the kit I got from Heltec. It's a network bridge kit, so it should have 2 units inside. Let's take a look what we got in the box. Got some instructions, don't need those. Got 2 units here, so one is labeled access point and the other one is labeled station. MAC address is written on, that kind of thing. The bottom side, we got a Type-C and an Ethernet RJ45. Allegedly, we can use one of them for power, which is the Type-C, and either of them, but not both, for data. And then on the top end, I've got an SMA connector for the antenna. And then they've sent, looks like 2 antennas, so these are just sort of like a little rubber ducky. 2 of the world's smallest Ethernet cables. 2 very reasonable USB cables. And a tool for pressing the reset button, which I think is like right here. Or maybe it is right here. No, that's not a reset button. So we're pushing the button here. So this kit is supposed to come prepared. So I guess I'll just plug one of them into my LAN here and the other one in my laptop, and we'll see what happens. So this one says he's the access point. So I don't believe they support PoE, but I've got a cable that does. So if I plug it in, I guess there's no LED. Well, could just not have power. So I've also got power from a Type-C over here. So let's plug that in. We got any LEDs now? Oh, yep, we got one right there. So I'll just put this off to the side. I think I mentioned these guys have both RJ45 and USB. So the USB is needed for power. I really wish these guys had PoE. But you can also use the USB for Ethernet as well, but they're mutually exclusive. So they have some sort of PHY switching going on. So I'm just going to try that. I'm going to try hooking up my laptop to USB. So they've included a Type A to Type C cable, so just plug that into the other side. My laptop, of course, doesn't have Type A, so I need my hub. Plug into USB-A on the hub and plug that in the laptop. Okay, so these guys were in fact not prepared, so I'm going to have to go pair them. When they boot up, they've got a whole bunch of different LED colors through this little tiny hole here. And the color it ends up in tells you if it's in USB mode or RJ45 mode, because it can't do both. And so this one ended up in Ethernet mode, so I switched it over to USB. Now my computer got a private IP address, so I'm guessing that's just this thing setting up an IPv4 network to configure. On the other side, it is stuck in a configuration mode. So I think that means it's unconfigured, and it wants me to log in to configure it. So I'm going to log into the station first, I guess, doesn't really matter which, and see what the web UI looks like. Showed up, by the way, is EN22 on my Mac, and I got the IP address 10.42.203, so we'll try the .1 on that subnet. Switch to .1. Lucy. It's Lucy. So that means this thing's based on OpenWRT, which is makes a lot of sense. Like a ton of Wi-Fi equipment is based on OpenWRT, but I don't really like OpenWRT. I feel like their web UI is real shit, and no one cares to fix it because every company that uses OpenWRT makes their own web UI instead. And the whole OpenWRT project is like stuck in the era of like 16 megabyte flash and stuff, and isn't willing to put in the code space to have a UI that looks half decent and works well. Default password is heltec.org. Okay, so you're saying I'm connected on LAN, and it's generated a ULA, which is an interesting choice. So the uplink is HaLow, and the access point is not connected, but it's B272. Yeah, there they are, I guess. B272 and B1F2. I think I forgot to mention, these guys also have 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So you can use it to like uplink via 2.4 gigahertz. So instead of actually having to run an Ethernet cable to it, it can use the 2.4 gigahertz as its uplink. And it can also act as a 2.4 gigahertz access point. So if I put this out in my gaming shed out there, from past videos you've seen, I could just plug this into power. It could uplink via HaLow, like a whole ass kilometer away. Then I can connect my devices using plain standard Wi-Fi 2.4 gigahertz. So I think this means that this guy is my access point. Okay, so these two guys were in fact already paired. It's just that this one couldn't find a connection to my LAN because its default configuration is looking for a Wi-Fi network. So, interesting default choice, but they are actually paired by default. So on the access point side, yeah, okay, so it's trying to, oh, it got an IP address. Okay, I think it is actually working. I just had a misunderstanding of how the default config was. So these are configured with OpenWRT. This one by default is configured as a router. So it's doing IPv4 NAT from my LAN to an IPv4 subnet in 192.168.100. Then this guy, the client, is doing IPv4 NAT again. So I am now triple NATed on my laptop, but I should be able to access the internet. So let's see if it works. Yeah, it works. 1.8 megabits, 10 megabits. Sounds about right. So it totally does work. I could just plug these in and it would work for IPv4, not for IPv6. So I want to bridge these guys all together because I don't really want these guys doing routing, even though they totally could do routing. I want them to do bridging and let my router do the routing. Okay, so first off, mode. Can I just change the mode with the settings button? Standard Wi-Fi HaLow. This device is an access point, yes. HaLow SSID. Here I can do 8 megahertz. We'll do 8 megahertz. Yeah, sounds good. What channel should I do? Oh yeah, by the way, if you're in the EU, you got like mega screwed on HaLow. So in the US, we have like 901 or 2 or something. We have about 50 megahertz of bandwidth in the 900 megahertz spectrum. So HaLow can use a full 8 megahertz channel width. In Europe, you have 5 megahertz at 850. And so you can't use 8 megahertz. And actually, you can only use 1 megahertz because of the alignment. So, sucks to suck. This is a very nice graphic. It looks kind of hand-drawn. We're going to use Ethernet and we're going to use bridge. So now over here, I'm going to have to reconfigure my client mode as well. So let's go to the wizard. Standard HaLow. We're going to act as a client. Annual credentials. We're going to use bridge mode. So extender mode basically does MAC address NAT. Bridge mode does not MAC address NAT. So we'll do that. Okay, so it looks like that is my access point. That is my computer via the HaLow network. And that is the HaLow client. Looks like EN22 has now come up with all my prefixes. So I should have like good IPv6. Try fast again without NAT. Was it worse? A little bit better, not that bad. 13 meg. Okay, so they work exactly as I expect on the bench here. So I guess the next step is to do some range testing outside. And we just had a massive snowstorm, so that'll be fun. But my fiance's finished, so I'm sure she'll tell me how to dress outside. Before I go outside, though, I want to change this guy to IPv6. So let's edit him. There we go. I guess worst case, I can always reboot it, right? There we go, IPv6. Okay, I did find one bug here. I'm going to change this to connect to my network. And it says IPv4 address expecting non-empty value. So I'm out here in weather that Americans would call a blizzard, and the Finns would probably call a fine summer day. And so I've got the access point up here on a pole. This is the access point I'm comparing to. It's my TP-Link EAP225 outdoor. We're only comparing 2.4 gigahertz. By the way, we know 5 gig is not going to work that well. One problem I did have is that this access point could not connect over 2.4 gig to this one because this one doesn't support WDS, so 4 MAC frames. So I got an Ethernet cable I'm running into the garage. I've also, because it doesn't support PoE, I've got a power bank sitting here that's powering it, just a standard USB power bank. This also doesn't say it's outdoor rated. In fact, they warn that this particular unit is not outdoor rated. So they have other access points. This is just like their base model, but it's the one I got. So this is my test setup for the access point side for range testing. So I didn't go too far here, but I just want to test to make sure everything works. So do a quick speed test on the iPad here. I'm connected to my regular home network, so I should get the 2.4 gig AP, maybe even 5 gigahertz at this distance. Looks like I'm getting 170 megabits per second, which is great. So I'm going to switch over now to the HaLow and grab the dongle out of here. So now I got the HaLow dongle here. So this is receiving the 802.11ah HaLow signal, and it's rebroadcasting 2.4 gig for the iPad. So if I refresh my speed test on the iPad, I should get about 10 megabits. And that's what I'm getting. So now let's go a little bit further away and see how this carries. Okay, so I'm all the way at the edge of the property line here, and on my regular network I'm getting 8.9. 8.9 is not the best. Switch over to HaLow and see what we got there. I'll pick this thing up to give it the best chance of good signal. Go. 11 megs, rock solid. I mean, 11 megs is the maximum HaLow can do. 12, 13, basically. So, great signal all the way out here. You can see the house in the background. So, further we go. So I drove just one more house down. I can't even see the Wi-Fi network anymore. So I'm going to hold the HaLow thing out the window here, and we're going to see what reception we get. So it's not in the closed car. Looks like the HaLow network is still getting 10.011 megabits per second. 2.4 gig got me nothing. So again, no 2.4 gig out here. I drove like 350 meters away or so. It's like the distance from my house in Finland to the nearest Coles supermarket that I walked to. Again, I'm holding the HaLow receiver out the window. So let's start a new speed test, and we're getting 9 megabits per second. This is really, really impressive. Like, seriously impressive. So I guess that means I gotta go up and over the hill now. So you guys know the drill. I went like 200 more meters, so now I'm like more than half a kilometer from home. I'm again holding the receiver out the window, and I'm getting, it's a little bit slow in the ramp up. Okay, 1.7 megabits per second. Now remember, I got 80 megahertz channel widths going on here, so if I drop this down to 1 megahertz, I probably could get even further, 2.1 megabits. Okay, so I still got signal here. Now the road goes down into a valley and then back up again. So I'm gonna go back up to the next hill and see what we get from there. So top of the next hill, I don't think I'm quite at a kilometer yet, but guess we're gonna see. So holding this thing up, I hit start test, and it doesn't look like I'm getting anything here. So I'm gonna go back and change my channel width down from 8 megahertz to like 1 or 2. See if I can get reception all the way out here on the second hill. Okay, so reconfigure my network down to 2 megahertz channel width instead of 8 megahertz. So again, holding the radio out the window, and we are getting, I expect about 4 megabits per second with this channel width. And I was able to get that back at home, just right in front of the house. So I am now getting about 1 megabit, so 960 kilobits. And I am like pretty far away from home. So now I'm going to go back to the top of the second hill and see if we can get anything from there. Okay, top of second hill, what do we got this time? Looks like I still got nothing. I might have a little bit of a mound in the way, but I'm really not in the mood to do any hiking given how much snow there is here. I guess I could just kind of creep forward in the car. The car's probably really mad at me. See if I can find a place where any signal goes through. Nope, looking like no from here. So again, I'm going through like a whole forest at this point because I'm kind of on a diagonal back to my house, so I guess I'm going to go back inside and take a look at the data. So, back down here in the basement, got some measurements on the map of all the points where I stopped and tested with this thing so we can get some comparison. So the test that 2.4 gig was still working at. So again, I was getting the same bandwidth over HaLow as I was at 2.4 gig at that point, 56 meters. Now, that's essentially line of sight. It's going through an arborvitae bush, which is fairly dense, but it's not like a whole forest. So moving a little bit down the road to the neighbor's house, I was at 75 meters there, which is not that far. However, at that distance, I was going through quite a bit more forest. No signal there in 2.4 gig, rock solid 900 megahertz HaLow. Then I drove down the street a bit. I ended up at about 250 meters, still getting full signal. Now at that point, the straight line that I drew in Google Maps went through quite a few trees and straight through a house. So going right through the whole house, or around it, I guess, however the radio waves like to go. From that point, I went up to the top of the hill. So my house is kind of on a slight hill, so I guess down to the bottom of the valley was where I was testing 250 meters, and up the hill again. I was at around 400 meters. The line of sight took me straight through a house again in quite a few trees, and still getting signal, not full speed, but still getting signal on the HaLow stuff. So from there I went down the hill, curved around a bit and ended up, and because of how the curves ended up for the other hill, I was actually only about 500 meters from the house. But at that point I was going through like 200 meters of forest and 2 houses, and I wasn't able to get signal there, which feels fair to me. They claim these guys can do 1 kilometer line of sight. I wouldn't be surprised by that slightly. So if you have a large property and you want to get like IP internet or control signals, IP cameras, that kind of stuff, these guys will certainly do it. I can't imagine you having more than 1 kilometer to go on your own property. At that point, you've pretty much got to run directional stuff to have enough antenna gain. So that's these guys. Now these guys are a kit that Heltec makes. There are other models, so all of Heltec stuff is kind of more consumer oriented, so it's not that expensive. It's all like less than $100. They sell an ESP32 with a 802.11ah modem connected to it. I'm not sure if that's over SPI or over the Me interface, but it's hooked up. So that's an option. They sell a dev board with that if you want to dev your own stuff. They sell these guys, which you can use as an access point or a station. They're both identical. It's just how they come pre-configured if you buy them in a kit. They have one other one that's kind of like an access point. Unfortunately, none of them have PoE. I really wish they had PoE. Okay, I got the price. So this thing is $69, and that is really cheap for what it is, I think. So you've got a 2.4 gigahertz radio. You've got the 802.11ah 900 megahertz radio, gig Ethernet, and USB Ethernet. And of course, you have to choose 1 or 2 of those. So I can see why they didn't include PoE. I would have been willing to pay like $10 extra for PoE personally, but people have different needs, I guess. Although PoE is like a pretty basic thing. But anyway, that's what these guys are. I mentioned earlier that if you're in the EU, you kind of got mega screwed on channels because of the EU's 868 megahertz frequency band not being contiguous, things like that, versus the 900 megahertz band we have in the US. As a result of that, by the way, I'm moving to Finland in 2 weeks at this point of recording this video. Not sure when the video will come out. But, so yeah, because I can't take these with me, I'm going to sell my kit, the HaLow dongle kit. So the one you saw in the video, the 2 dongles, the antennas, all that stuff. Back in the box. It's got some tape residue on it because I taped it onto the pole for testing. But this has to go to someone who's in the region where 900 megahertz is the ISM band. So unfortunately, people in Europe can't have these exact ones. Also, I sell t-shirts now. Home Lab, your own personal data center. This is a favorite of mine. It's also a bestseller right now, so much that I have to order more DTF transfers for it. I'm also pretty much liquidating a lot of the stuff I have here in the US because my residence permit was approved, so I'm moving permanently to Finland. and that means I really can't carry with me a lot of my tech stuff that I've accumulated over the years. While I do love it, I'm selling some of it on eBay. I'm listing some of it on my Discord server, if it's cheaper stuff especially. So if you'd like a lot of the obscure stuff I've collected over the years, feel free to message me there. If you've seen anything on the channel that was not a mini PC, all the mini PCs are already gone. If you've seen anything else on the channel that you're interested in, feel free to jump in the Discord, see if it's there. I have the Discord server. I always plug it at the end of the video, so link down below for the Discord server. Join there. We have a bulletin board where you can post for sale things in the HomeLab community and sell directly to each other, and I've been making use of that heavily recently. These guys are going up. Again, normally I don't like to resell stuff that I get for testing because I don't feel comfortable with that. But since I'm moving, I've got to get rid of this stuff, and so it's sort of a one-time thing. I usually just accumulate stuff and use it myself. So if I was staying here in the US, these would definitely get put to work doing something. But since I can't take them to Finland and walk to my nearest cool supermarket and have Wi-Fi from my house because I don't have the 900 megahertz band there, it's sad. So yeah, t-shirts, they're on my Ko-fi, link down below for that. Stuff on my Discord server, also is on my eBay page sometimes. I'm on Mastodon. Follow me there, and I'll see you guys on the next adventure.